Hello, and welcome back to Speak English Daily.
Hi, everyone. We are very happy to see you here today.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Speak English Daily. Today, we're talking about something that happens to almost everybody: emotional conversations.
Yeah, those conversations can become difficult very quickly. Sometimes you know what you want to say in your mind, but the moment you become emotional, everything gets messy.
That's true. You may speak too fast, forget simple words, or even say something you later regret.
I've definitely experienced that. A few weeks ago, I had a disagreement with a friend, and I started talking so quickly that even I couldn't understand my own point clearly.
And that happens to many English learners, too. During calm conversations, they speak pretty well, but during emotional moments, their English suddenly becomes less clear.
Because emotions affect communication. When people feel angry, nervous, stressed, or hurt, they stop organizing their thoughts carefully.
Sometimes people interrupt more. Sometimes they repeat the same idea again and again. And sometimes they say things they don't truly mean.
I think one of the most common sentences after an argument is, "I didn't mean it like that."
Yes, or I was too emotional.
Or even, "I couldn't express myself."
That sentence is very important for English learners. Many people are not bad communicators. They simply struggle to express themselves clearly when emotions become strong.
And emotional conversations are part of everyday life. Talking to family members, friends, coworkers, or romantic partners can become emotional sometimes.
Which is why calm communication matters so much. Speaking clearly during emotional situations can prevent misunderstandings and protect relationships.
It can also help you feel more confident in English because you're learning how to stay focused instead of panicking.
One thing I've learned is that slower communication is usually better during emotional moments.
I agree. When people rush, they often create more confusion.
So, during this episode, we'll talk about how to communicate more clearly, how to stay calm, and how to express your feelings in a more natural and respectful way.
And don't worry if this is difficult for you. Even native speakers struggle with emotional conversations sometimes.
One thing that makes emotional conversations difficult is speed. The moment people become upset, they often start speaking much faster than normal.
That happened to me recently, actually. I was talking with a friend about a problem we had, and I became really frustrated during the conversation.
What happened?
At first, I was calm, but then my friend interrupted me a few times, and I started feeling defensive. After that, my thoughts became disorganized.
That's a very common emotional reaction.
Yeah, and the strange thing is that I knew what I wanted to say, but the faster I spoke, the less clear my message became.
Sometimes people think faster speaking will help them explain themselves better.
But usually the opposite happens.
Right. Emotional conversations require slower communication, not faster communication.
I remember stopping in the middle of the conversation and saying, "I'm having trouble explaining this."
That's actually a very useful sentence because it creates a pause. It tells the other person that you're trying to communicate carefully.
I think pauses are underrated. Many people are afraid of silence during conversations.
Especially English learners. They often feel pressure to continue speaking without stopping.
But pauses can help you calm down and organize your thoughts.
Even a short pause can make a huge difference. You can say something simple like, "Give me a second."
That expression sounds natural and respectful. It also prevents emotional reactions from controlling the conversation.
Another helpful technique is using shorter sentences.
Definitely. When people become overwhelmed, they often create very long sentences that become confusing.
Instead of explaining 5 ideas together, focus on one idea at a time.
For example, instead of saying everything immediately, you can slow yourself down and say, "That's not what I'm trying to say."
Then you can restart more calmly.
I actually used another expression during that conversation with my friend. I said, "Let me start again."
That's a great phrase because it gives you permission to reset the conversation.
And honestly, after I slowed down, the whole discussion improved. My friend also became calmer because my energy changed.
Emotions spread very quickly in conversations. If one person becomes aggressive or rushed, the other person often reacts the same way.
But calm communication can also influence the other person positively.
Another important thing is breathing. People forget to breathe properly when they feel emotional.
That's true. When I'm stressed, I speak quickly and breathe badly at the same time.
Which makes your voice sound tense and nervous.
So if you notice yourself becoming upset, try slowing your breathing first, then slow your words.
And remember, clear communication is more important than perfect grammar during emotional moments.
People usually respect honesty and calmness more than complicated vocabulary.
Something else that causes problems during emotional conversations is the pressure to answer immediately.
That pressure feels very real sometimes. When someone asks a difficult question, people often think they must respond right away.
And because of that, they give impulsive replies instead of thoughtful ones.
I've done that many times. Someone says something emotional and I answer too quickly without thinking carefully first.
Then later, you replay the conversation in your mind and think, why did I say that?
Yes, especially during stressful discussions.
One of the healthiest communication habits is learning to pause before responding.
Some people worry that pausing makes them sound weak or uncertain.
But in reality, it usually makes you sound more mature and emotionally balanced.
I agree with that. Fast emotional reactions often create bigger problems.
A calm response usually creates a better outcome. And sometimes the best thing you can say is very simple.
Like what?
I need a moment to think.
That's a powerful sentence because it slows the conversation down respectfully.
And it protects you from saying something harmful that you don't truly mean.
I think many English learners focus only on vocabulary and grammar, but emotional control is also part of communication skills.
Definitely. Communication is not only about speaking, it's also about timing.
That reminds me of a conversation I had with my brother last year. We disagreed about something important, and I could feel myself becoming irritated.
What did you do?
Normally, I would continue arguing, but this time I stopped and said, "Can we talk about this in a few minutes?"
That was smart.
The interesting thing is that the conversation became much better later. We both had time to calm down and think clearly.
Emotional conversations often become worse because both people are reacting emotionally at the same time.
So creating space can help.
Yes, even a short break can completely change the tone of a discussion.
Another useful expression is, "I don't want to react emotionally."
I like that phrase because it shows self-awareness. You're being honest about your emotional state.
And it tells the other person you still care about the conversation.
That's important. Taking time to think should not sound like avoidance.
Right, you're not running away from the discussion. You're trying to communicate better.
Another expression I use sometimes is, I want to choose my words carefully.
That sounds calm and respectful.
And it also creates trust because the other person sees that you're making an effort to communicate responsibly.
I think emotional maturity is connected to patience. People who communicate well usually don't rush every response.
They understand that words have consequences.
Especially during emotional moments, one careless sentence can stay in someone's memory for a very long time.
Which is why slowing down before responding is such an important skill, both in English and in life.
And the good news is that this skill improves with practice. The more consciously you pause, the more natural it becomes.
Another major problem during emotional conversations is misunderstanding.
And sometimes the misunderstanding becomes bigger than the original problem.
Very true. People often stop listening carefully when emotions become strong. Instead, they begin making assumptions.
They hear one sentence and immediately decide what the other person means.
Even when their interpretation is wrong.
I remember a situation at work where this happened to me. A coworker told me, "You seemed distracted during the meeting."
That sounds pretty neutral.
It was probably meant that way, but I was already stressed that day, so I interpreted it as criticism.
Your emotional state changed the meaning in your mind.
Yes, I became defensive immediately and started explaining myself too aggressively.
Did your coworker react badly?
He looked confused more than anything else. Then he said, "I think you misunderstood me."
That sentence can save a conversation sometimes.
Definitely, because emotional conversations often create a communication gap between intention and interpretation.
That's an important point. Your intention and the other person's understanding are not always the same thing.
Which is why clarification matters so much.
Instead of assuming, it's better to ask questions and confirm meaning calmly.
One useful expression is, "Can you tell me what you understood?"
I really like that phrase because it encourages clear communication instead of blame.
It also helps identify where the misunderstanding started.
Sometimes people think they explained themselves clearly, but the listener received a completely different message.
I've experienced that too. There were moments when I thought I was being honest and calm, but the other person thought I sounded cold or angry.
Emotional conversations are complicated because people are reacting not only to words, but also to emotions, tone, and personal experiences.
Which means small misunderstandings can grow very quickly.
Another helpful phrase is, "That's not what I meant."
That sentence gives you an opportunity to correct confusion before the conversation becomes more emotional.
But the tone matters too. If you sound irritated, the other person may feel attacked.
So it's better to sound calm and cooperative.
Yes, you're trying to solve the misunderstanding together, not win an argument.
Sometimes explaining something again also helps.
Definitely. And when you repeat an idea, changing your wording can make communication clearer.
For example, instead of repeating the same sentence louder, you can say, "Let me explain differently."
That expression sounds patient and constructive.
Another sentence I use sometimes is, "Maybe I explained it badly."
That's a very emotionally intelligent phrase because it reduces tension immediately.
It shows humility.
And it prevents the other person from feeling blamed.
I think many conflicts continue because both people are trying to defend themselves instead of trying to understand each other.
That's true. Listening carefully is just as important as speaking clearly.
Emotional conversations become healthier when both people focus on understanding instead of reacting.
And misunderstandings are normal. They happen in every language and every relationship.
The important thing is recognizing them early and fixing them before emotions become too intense.
Sometimes one calm clarification can completely change the direction of a conversation.
Which is why slowing down and checking understanding is such an important communication skill.
There's another communication problem people often ignore during emotional conversations, and that's tone of voice.
Tone changes everything.
Sometimes the words themselves are not offensive, but the tone creates tension.
I've seen that happen many times. Someone says a simple sentence, but it sounds sarcastic or impatient because of the way they say it.
And emotional situations make tone even more important because people become extra sensitive.
Especially when stress is already high.
One thing many English learners struggle with is sounding colder than they intend to sound.
That's true. When people are translating in their minds or concentrating hard, their voice can lose warmth.
Which may make them sound distant, irritated, or unfriendly, even when that's not their intention.
I remember a conversation with a coworker where I answered very briefly because I was stressed and tired.
How did the other person react?
Later, they asked me if I was upset with them.
Interesting.
And honestly, I was surprised. In my mind, I was just exhausted, but my tone sounded sharp and cold.
That happens a lot. People often judge emotions through tone more than vocabulary.
There's a great expression for this. It's not only what you say.
Yes, because communication includes voice, timing, facial expressions, and energy.
Another difficult thing is accidental sarcasm.
Especially during arguments.
Sometimes people become frustrated and start using a sarcastic tone without fully noticing it.
And sarcasm usually makes emotional conversations worse.
Because the other person feels disrespected.
Exactly. Even small changes in voice can completely change how a sentence feels emotionally.
I once heard someone say, "Fine, do whatever you want," in a very sarcastic tone. The words were simple, but the emotional meaning was intense.
That's why voice control matters so much during conflict.
One useful thing people can do is pay attention to volume.
Definitely. When emotions rise, voices often become louder automatically.
And louder voices usually make the other person more defensive.
Another important skill is recognizing when your tone created confusion.
Instead of denying it,
Yes, sometimes people become too focused on defending their words instead of understanding the emotional impact.
a healthier response could be, "I didn't mean to sound rude."
That sentence can calm a situation very quickly because it acknowledges the other person's feelings.
Another helpful phrase is, "I was stressed, not angry."
I like that expression because it clarifies emotional intention.
And it separates stress from hostility.
Emotional conversations become much easier when people explain their emotional state clearly.
Also, listening to your own voice matters. Sometimes people don't realize how tense they sound until they consciously slow down.
That's why self-awareness is so important in communication.
One calm sentence spoken respectfully is often more powerful than a long emotional explanation.
And when your tone feels calm and sincere, people are usually more willing to listen carefully.
Which means better tone often creates better conversations overall.
One of the biggest differences between unhealthy communication and healthy communication is the way people express their feelings.
Especially during conflict.
Yes, many emotional conversations become aggressive because people focus on blame instead of explanation.
They attack the other person instead of describing their own feelings.
And once blame enters the conversation, people usually stop listening carefully.
Because they immediately feel accused.
That's why emotionally mature communication often uses "I feel" statements.
Those statements sound much calmer and more respectful.
They also help people communicate honestly without creating unnecessary tension.
I think this is difficult for many people because emotions naturally push us toward blame.
Very true. For example, instead of saying "you never listen," you can say "I feel ignored sometimes."
The second sentence sounds much softer.
And more productive, too. The goal is not to punish the other person. The goal is to explain your emotional experience clearly.
Another example is interruptions during conversations,
Right. Many people say, "You always interrupt me."
which usually creates defensiveness immediately.
But a calmer alternative is, "I lose my train of thought when I'm interrupted."
That sounds completely different emotionally.
Because you're focusing on your experience instead of attacking someone's personality.
I've noticed that emotionally intelligent people often describe situations very carefully.
Yes, they avoid exaggerated language.
Words like always and never can make conversations more emotional.
Because those words often sound unfair.
And when people feel unfairly judged, they usually stop focusing on the real issue.
Another helpful communication habit is separating feelings from assumptions.
What do you mean by that?
Sometimes people speak as if they already know the other person's intentions.
Like saying, "You don't care about me."
Exactly. That statement assumes motivation and emotion.
A calmer version could be, "I felt hurt when that happened."
Yes, because you're describing your feelings instead of claiming to know the other person's mind.
I think respectful communication becomes easier when people stay specific.
Definitely. Specific explanations create clarity.
General accusations create emotional chaos.
And calm communication does not mean hiding your feelings.
That's important.
Some people think emotionally mature communication means becoming emotionless, but that's not true at all.
You can still express disappointment, frustration, sadness, or anger.
The difference is how you express those emotions.
I once had a difficult conversation with a friend where I consciously tried using calmer language.
Did it help?
A lot. Instead of saying, "You made me feel terrible," I said, "I felt hurt after our conversation yesterday."
That probably sounded less aggressive.
It did. My friend became much more open and understanding because he didn't feel attacked immediately.
That's the power of emotionally intelligent language. It creates space for understanding instead of conflict.
And honestly, these communication skills improve relationships in every area of life.
Friendships, family conversations, work situations, even everyday misunderstandings.
Because people respond better when they feel respected.
And respectful communication usually leads to more honest conversations, too. Mike, can we talk about the project meeting from yesterday?
Sure, what's wrong?
I left the meeting feeling a little frustrated, honestly.
Frustrated? Why?
During the discussion, I felt like you dismissed some of my ideas too quickly.
Wait, dismissed your ideas? That wasn't my intention at all.
I know maybe you didn't mean to, but that's how it felt to me.
I'm surprised hearing that because I thought we were just discussing different options.
We were, but a few times when I started explaining something, you interrupted before I finished.
I wasn't trying to interrupt you in a rude way. I was just reacting to the conversation.
I understand that, but after it happened several times, I started feeling ignored.
I honestly didn't realize I was doing that.
And then, near the end of the meeting, when I mentioned changing the timeline, your response sounded irritated.
Which part?
When you said, that's going to create even more problems.
Oh, I see the issue now.
Your tone sounded angry to me.
I think I was stressed, not angry. Yesterday was a really overwhelming day for me.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I had another deadline at the same time and my mind was moving too fast, but I didn't mean to make you feel insubstantial.
Thank you for saying that.
Still, I should have communicated better.
I appreciate that. And maybe I should have asked for clarification instead of silently becoming upset.
No, your feelings are valid. I can understand why my behavior affected you that way.
I think part of the problem was that both of us were under pressure.
Probably. Stress changes communication a lot.
There was also a moment where I tried to explain my concerns about the presentation design, but I felt rushed.
Was that when I started talking about the client feedback?
Yes, I lost my train of thought when the conversation changed suddenly.
I remember that now. I thought I was helping move the discussion forward.
See, that's interesting. We experienced the same moment very differently.
That happens a lot in emotional conversations.
Definitely. One person thinks they're being efficient, while the other person feels unheard.
Can I ask something honestly?
Of course.
Did you think I was disrespecting you personally?
For a few minutes, yes. That's why I became quieter during the second half of the meeting.
I noticed the change in your energy, but I couldn't understand why.
I didn't want to react emotionally in front of everyone.
That was probably a good decision.
Still, I should have spoken with you afterward instead of carrying the frustration home with me.
Honestly, I'm glad we're talking about it now.
Me too.
And for what it's worth, I really value your ideas on this project. I never want you to feel ignored.
Thank you. That means a lot.
I think yesterday taught me something important about communication.
What's that?
Being busy or stressed doesn't automatically excuse poor communication habits.
That's very true.
Even if my intentions were good, the impact still mattered.
And I also learned that assumptions can make situations feel worse than they really are.
Yeah, if we hadn't talked today, we probably both would have continued misunderstanding each other.
Probably.
Another thing I want to improve is listening more patiently instead of jumping into solutions immediately.
That's a great skill during emotional conversations.
Sometimes people don't want immediate solutions. They just want to feel heard first.
Exactly. Feeling understood changes the entire emotional atmosphere.
So next time, if I interrupt you, please tell me directly.
I will. And next time, I'll also explain my feelings earlier instead of staying silent.
Sounds like a good plan.
I think this conversation actually improved our teamwork.
I agree. Difficult conversations can strengthen relationships when people communicate honestly and calmly.
Today's conversation showed something very important. Speaking clearly during emotional moments is not only about English ability.
It's also about emotional awareness and communication habits.
Many people think communication problems happen because of vocabulary mistakes.
But often the real problem is emotional pressure.
When emotions become strong, people speak faster, interrupt more, forget words, or react too quickly.
Which is why slowing down matters so much.
Even a small pause can help you organize your thoughts and communicate more clearly.
And pauses are not something negative. Taking a moment before responding can actually make you sound calmer and more confident.
Another helpful strategy is choosing simple words.
A lot of English learners try to create perfect sentences during emotional conversations.
But clear communication is usually more important than complicated grammar.
Short and honest sentences often work best.
We also talked about clarity.
Yes, emotional conversations become confusing when people make assumptions instead of checking understanding.
So remember to clarify your meaning when necessary. Expressions like, "that's not what I meant," or "let me explain differently" can really help.
Tone of voice is another huge part of communication.
Sometimes people don't sound the way they think they sound.
Stress, frustration, and exhaustion can change your tone without you noticing.
That's why voice control and self-awareness are important during difficult conversations.
And finally, we talked about expressing feelings calmly.
Using "I feel" statements instead of blame can completely change the direction of a conversation.
Respectful communication creates better listening.
And better listening creates better relationships.
If emotional conversations are difficult for you in English, don't feel discouraged.
These skills take time, even for native speakers.
The important thing is practicing calm and honest communication step by step.
And remember, you do not need to sound perfect to express yourself clearly.
You simply need patience, awareness, and the willingness to communicate respectfully.
Thanks for spending this time with us today, everyone. We hope this conversation helps you feel more confident during emotional situations in English.